wa barakatuh. This is your brother Nafis Abu Zayd.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Isa Abu Isa. Alhamdulillah, this is another episode of the Night Shift. Like I said, we always remind you that me and Abu Zayd, we came up with this program to defend Islam from cult characteristics, hizbiyya, partisanship, and extremism, which is hadadiyya.
No.
Ibn Mubarak today, yes, the Sheikh said, this is our manhaj. Ahmed said, Malik said, Shafi'i said, Sufyan said, Ibn Mubarak said, Ibn Umar said, Ibn Abbas said, this is our manhaj. Rabi said, Al-Albani said, Bin Baz said, Muqbil said, this is our manhaj. This is our manhaj, ya ikhwan. We make no apologies for that. What's your manhaj?
Alhamdulillah. Today, inshallah ta'ala, we will talk about a principle that is very important, inshallah ta'ala, in terms of that we need to know and adopt, that our beloved brothers, inshallah ta'ala, would like to remind them, brothers Hassan Somali in their, in company, remind them of these principles, inshallah ta'ala, and help spread this principle and to teach the people this type of principle. The principle we're talking about is al-haqqu la yu'rafu bil-rijal walakin al-rijal hum alladhina ya'rifuna bil-haqq. That the truth is not known by the men, and that the men, however, they are the ones who are known by the truth. The truth are not known by the men, so the truth isn't known by the men. However, it is the men who, they are the ones who are known by the truth. Before getting into the actual statement of Sheikh Fawzan and Sheikh Rabi' Hafidhahumullah, as well as Sheikh Obayd, we're going to mention some kalam from Sheikh Al-Albani that he have gathered from the Salaf and his introduction dealing with the Sifat al-Salat al-Nabi. And wallahi, brothers and sisters, this principle might be simple, but it is a yardstick for what we see was happening, inshallah ta'ala, within the community.
No.
Inshallah, amongst other individuals as well. Tayyib. So Imam Tahawi, he brings a statement of Imam Tahawi, rahimahullah ta'ala, that he said, La yuqalidu illa asabi wa awwabi. He said that no one blind follows except one who is a fanatic or someone who is what? Foolish. And what he mean by blind follow, the ulama explains it's like putting a harness over top of the face of a horse and leading that horse anywhere, or placing it over a camel and just leading that camel anywhere. And also the shar'an meaning of blind following is following a statement of a scholar without any proof or evidence.
Exactly.
Following a statement of anyone without any proof or evidence. Tayyib. I'll let our brother Isa go into the next statement that was made. The statement by Sheikh Bakr ibn Abdullah Abu Zayd in his book known as Ta'alum.
And he says here, ولا عصمة الإمام سواء سيد البشر صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said there is no one who was free from, there's no imam or no person who was free from error except the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Except the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
That's it. So at the end of the day, everybody has to be asked for proof except the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam, as he's going to say. And he says, حيث يوجد دليل. He said, so when everybody else, proof has to be present for what they say, except the Messenger of Allah. And then we're just explaining what the words of what the Sheikh is saying. ما هو مذهب ذلكم إمام.
He said يكون هو مذهب
ذلك الإمام. كم صرح به كل واحد من أربعة مشهورين. He said, so the madhab of that Imam, the Prophet ﷺ, as was said by many of the four Imams, فيكون نزع عليه دليل هو تقليد في سورة طرق التقليد. He said, so that the Prophet ﷺ, the issue is following the Prophet ﷺ and everybody else can be what? Naza'a alayhi dalil. When dalil comes, you can go back and forth with somebody else other than who? Than the Prophet ﷺ. And he says that this type of taqleed is permissible to the Prophet ﷺ. But we have to leave the taqleed to the who? Anybody other than the Prophet ﷺ has to be totally abandoned and left off.
So inshallah ta'ala, if you just go back, let's go back to the beginning of this and understand what he's saying. There is no one, when it comes to human beings, there is no one who is infallible or ma'asum free from error except the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is no one in terms of free from error and by way of tabligh, conveying the message of Allah Azza wa Jal, except the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is the leader of mankind. Whereas when it comes to the Prophet ﷺ, you don't have to ask or second guess, as Isa has mentioned, alhamdulillah, about dalil. You don't have to ask what is the evidence. Therefore, that should etch in our mind, no matter who they be. It's not a form of criticism, as many brothers say that, is criticizing if you ask someone for the dalil. No, we should ask. Matter of fact, it should be incumbent upon you and I, no matter who they may be, whether they be a scholar or whether they be from the lay people, that they have to ask for the dalil. Whereas though he mentioned that, he said, "Yakunu huwa madhabu dhalikum imam," and this is important because the imam we're talking about here is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is our imam. He is the one who we follow unrestrictedly because Allah Jalla wa Ala has said, "Whoever obeys faqad ata ar-rasul faqad ata Allah. Man ata ar-rasul faqad ata Allah." As Allah Jalla wa Ala said, "Whoever obeys the messenger, indeed he obeys Allah." So obeying the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam unrestrictedly is whom we obey. Is this the one who we obeyed unrestrictedly without asking any questions? So therefore, our madhab is going to be based on his madhab.
Exactly.
For example, كَمَا صَرَّحَ بِهِ كُلُّ وَاحِدٍ مِنَ أَرْبَةِ الْمَشْهُورِينَ. As the brother mentioned, that this is something that has clearly been explained and elucidated from the four famous imams. They have mentioned this clearly about the fact that you must follow the Prophet ﷺ unrestrictedly. Alayhi salatu wasalam. فَيَكُونَ مَا نَزَعَ, as the brother said, anyone besides the Prophet ﷺ, we can argue. What this established for us, brothers and sisters, that no matter who they may be, whether they be Abu Khadija, whether they be Ali Davis, whether they be Hassan Somali, whether they be Muhammad al-Munir, whether they be Tahir Wyatt, whether they be Kashif Khan, no matter whoever they may be, we can ask for dalil. And we can go back and forth in terms for dalil. That doesn't mean that by you asking for dalil, something that should be, someone say to you, is already clear, is already established. You're going against so-and-so, or you are a hidden hizbi, or you are hidden. Nah, that don't mean nothing. Even the scholars can be questioned about dalil. Look what the Salaf going to say. They said, huwa taqleed fi suratin taraka taqleed. So, again, this taqleed that's permissible. No. The blind following of the Prophet ﷺ, that's the one that's permissible.
That's worship.
No one else you can blind follow.
It's worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
No one else. And he said you leave off the impermissible taqleed. وَمَنْ كَانَ كَذَلِكَ فَهُوَ بِحَقٍ. Whoever holds on to the permissible black blind following, then he is upon truth. And whosoever follows that, then he is following who? Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Isa is going to continue, inshallah.
Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, he said, لا يحل أحد أن يأخذ بقولنا ما لم يعلم من أين أخذناه. Imam Abu Hanifa, he said, and it's not permissible for anyone to take our statements, right? If he doesn't know where I got it from, if he doesn't know where I got the evidence from, he doesn't know my statement. I said it. He doesn't know where it came from. He doesn't know the proof for it. It's not permissible for him now to take it and apply it and use it as a ruling in the religion. It's just not.
Subhanallah. Now here it is. This is Imam Abu Hanifa. Here he is making what? And this is how far we see that they go. The way that they go to safeguard themselves from any type of taqleed, any blind following, even anything leading someone astray. No, he's saying it's not permissible. La yahilu li ahad. It's not permissible for anyone to take my statement, and do what? It's not permissible for them to take my statement or our statement, and he doesn't know where we got the evidence from.
You know what that helps does? You see how the religion safeguards for it becoming a priesthood. If you follow this, you don't get a priesthood, you don't get a special class, there's no special class of brothers. Because once you apply this, you understand, I can ask him for proof. He's not special. Hey, where you get that from, Akhi? Where you get that proof from? Now we can question and ask questions. It doesn't make a special class that the Jews and Christians did with their priests and rabbis. They made a special group that could never be questioned.
And also this proves to us and highlights to us that you would never find during the time of the Salaf or even the Imams of guidance that they call to the scholars. This concept since existed in our time where we call to the scholars. That's not understood. We call to the dalil. We call to Allah and His Messenger. We call to Allah. We call to the Sunnah. That's what we call to. And we, inshallah ta'ala, we accept the explanations of those trustworthy scholars and we follow them based on their adherence to dalil. This way we protect ourselves, like the brother said, from priesthood. We protect ourselves from fanatically over loving someone.
Exactly.
What you want to say? A person having ta'assub.
To have it ta'assub.
You protect yourself from
You protect
that.
yourself from having extremism in somebody's personality. When you can ask somebody for proof, you just protect yourself from having extremism in somebody's personality. The next...
Tayyib, Ibn Abidin, he is the one who placed this in his book, Haishata ala Bahr al-Ra'iq. Also in another riwayah, another point, he mentioned haramun ala man lam ya'rif dalili an yufti bi kalami. That he said is impermissible for the person who does not know where I got, meaning he doesn't know my evidence, my proof, then he cannot use my speech as a way of a fatwa. He cannot base a verdict if he doesn't know where my proof is at.
So basically what you're saying is...
What is my proof, I mean?
If we understood this, so when you come out and you say the brothers are racist, or the brothers are this, and the brothers are that, this one's a deviant, and you take a 50-second piece of a clip, that's not dalil in Islam. Because first of all, you're taking words out of context. You need the whole context. You need every word that was said, that was connected to that clip. You need the background noise to it, the what was in front of it too. So proof is that now how can you now take clips of statements and then come and say this is dalil and then put a hukum from that dalil? Because that's not proof in Islam. So how can you now place a fatwa on something that's not even proof in Islam?
And even if you want to argue and say, well, our elder Sheikh Obayd said, or our elder Sheikh Rabi' said, or our elder Sheikh Muhammad ibn Hadi said, even if you want to argue that point, then here is a scholar who is greater than them. Here is Imam Abu Hanifa who is greater than them, no doubt.
No.
And here is he saying himself that my statement should not be taken unless I have dalil. Don't take my word, meaning don't take my word for it. When it comes to the deen of Islam, about Allah and His Messenger, do not take my word for it. This is what he said.
I mean, another thing, if a scholar says somebody's mudil, if a scholar says somebody's misguiding and leading others astray, and he never gives proof for that, no, the scholar got to give the reason why he said that and the proof. And he got to bring the statements, the reason why he's saying it about this individual. That just cannot be said like that about anybody. Somebody's a deviant. Okay, I need the reason why he's a deviant and the proof why he's a deviant.
And in addition to that, in another version, it said, فَإِنَّنَا بَشَرٌ نَقُولُ قَوْلٌ أَيَوْمٌ وَنَرْجِعُ عَنْهُ غَدًا. Look at this. He said, for rather we are humans. It is possible that what? We say a statement today, and tomorrow we reject that statement.
Yep.
Tomorrow we go back on that statement. So it's possible that you will find contradictions in our statements because we're what?
Yep,
we're humans. And this is scholars that are saying this. So we got to go back to that fundamental basic so that we realize that the brothers need to be weighed in contrast to that principle.
Exactly.
A lot of the times we hear, as we heard our beloved brother, as we heard the brother, inshallah, Abu Khadija mentioning the Sheikh said, or Sheikh Al-Albani said, or Sheikh Al-Zaw'i said.
That's not our minhaj.
I mean, that's not our minhaj. Our minhaj is not Sheikh so-and-so said. Our minhaj is called Allah. Allah said. His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. We bring the statements of the scholars later. But they shouldn't take precedent over the statement of Allah and His Messenger.
Nah. Our proof in Islam is call Allah, call Rasulullah. The Allah said, His Messenger said, and the Sahaba agreed upon.
And this wasn't even my statement. This is what Abdullah ibn Umar said.
No.
He said what? He said that the statement is what? He said, call Allah, call Rasulullah. Right? That's dalil.
Yep.
And la adri. He said this is knowledge. Knowledge is saying Allah said, His Messenger said, and saying la adri when you don't know. Not the Sheikh said, Sheikh this person said, that person said. La.
And even worse than that, you hear people, the brother said. Even worse than that, the brother said, the known caller said. Really? That's a proof in Islam?
Somali said.
Somali said. Somali said. That's really a proof in Islam? Somali's not a hujjah, a proof in Islam.
Well, Anwar said.
That he's not a proof in Islam. What he says is not a proof in Islam.
You have to be careful about that. I don't want no one running around saying Nafi said. I'm just like Abu Hanifa is saying here, do not take my word for it. If it comes to Allah and His Messenger, at least make sure you mention the dalil or the evidence. Because don't take my statement. He continued.
No. He said, "Ida sah hadith fahuwa madhhabi."
So who is this from? This is from
Abu Hanifa. Abu Hanifa said, if a hadith is found to be sound, this is my madhhab. So meaning that if somebody comes and he makes a statement in Islam, and it's a hadith that goes against it, we need the statement of that individual. And the problem is, you can show somebody dalil, you can show where this principle hasn't been taught, because you can show somebody dalil in Islam and prove it to them, they'll still say, Wallah, they'll still say, the noble brother said, the Abu Khadija said, Hassan Somali said, that's not what I heard in the class. But what proof did Hassan Somali say that Noble Hassan said? That's dangerous, akhi. No. And I advise Hassan Somali and those brothers at Salafi Publications to stop the people from doing that, attaching the truth to you and attaching Islam to you. No. Stop them from doing that.
Or attaching Islam to scholars.
Exactly.
Or attaching Islam to scholars. Because Islam is not attached to any scholar.
Exactly.
It's attached from the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu wa ijma'. And this is very important, because I don't believe any scholar that I know that, inshallah ta'ala, that's upon right guidance, the Quran and Sunnah, Fahm Salaf, that he's going to ever agree with the fact that the truth should be tied to him. And we should see that later on, inshallah ta'ala, in the Kalam of Sheikh Obayd, rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi. Mentioning Imam Malik now. Imam Malik, he mentioned, it was said about him, he made a statement, he said, إِنَمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ أَقْطَعُ وَأَقْطِئُ وأصيبوا فانظروا في رأيي. He said فكل ما وافق الكتاب والسنة فخذوه وكل ما لم يوافق الكتاب والسنة فاتركوه. And this is reported by Ibn Abd Barr in his Jami'. He collected it in his book Al Jami'. He said that I am only a man. I make mistakes and I get it right, meaning I get some things correct and I get some things incorrect. So look, in terms of my opinion, فَكُلُّ مَا وَافِقَ الْكِتَابِ وَالسُّنَّةِ, if you see inside my opinion that it agrees and coincides with what's found in the book and the sunnah, then you take it. And everything that you find from my opinion or my statements that does not agree or coincide with the kitab and the sunnah, then you abandon it. Allahu Akbar.
Subhanallah.
Then you abandon it. This goes for everybody. And I think this is one of the big problems that we have here.
It is.
It's one of the big problems, because we're so vulnerable and we're so trusting that we believe when it comes to the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal, that we just say, okay, these brothers, they have telelinks with scholars, they have endorsements, they do lectures, and they hold conferences. So, their word are golden. La, that's dangerous. No. La, we can't do that, because the Sufis felt into similar to that. My sheikh said this, and this is how I rock. No, we have to make sure that dalil is always present. Always present. We have to make sure that dalil is always present. Tayyib, Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah.
He says, "Laysa ahadin ba'da an-nabiy sallallahu alaihi wasallam illa yu'khadh min qawlihi aw yatruk illa an-nabiy sallallahu alaihi wasallam." And he said that anyone after the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, their statement can be taken or left off, except for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Except for the Prophet.
So at the end of the day, if anybody says anything to me, I have the right to say, "Where's your proof?" And if you bring me the proof and the proof is not strong enough to me, I'm not bonded to that. And you tell me, I said, well, this is my dalil. I don't agree with you, Aki. I can do that with everybody on the face of the planet except the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
And actually, it's binding upon me to do that.
Yeah.
Why would I just take your statement when you're talking about Allah and His Messenger? Why? When it's possible that you can say something about Allah and His Messenger, this is why you find Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, when they asked him about a verse in the Quran, he said, what? What sky would cover me? What would shade me if I say something about the book of Allah that's not true?
Exactly.
They was afraid to say something about Allah's deen. They had humbleness about answering the question. But we find that from amongst many of the du'ats here in the West, they are so freely open up to answering questions. Yeah, ask me. I tell you what it is. Tell me that. And then they went beyond answering questions. They got into the affair of Jahwa Ta'adil. So now they're saying, yeah, I criticize so-and-so. I criticize so-and-so. So then what you see is you start seeing a lot of unscholarly refutations.
Yep.
And that's what y'all seeing now. Because there's no one from the scholars, wallahi to lie, brothers and sisters, there's no one from the scholars that's overlooking the actions of these brothers of late. Even after the interviews that we have conducted with certain people, it had been an onslaught on Twitter against them, blotting their eyes out. It has been statements, they're racist. They're calling to nationalistic. There have been no scholarly approval over it whatsoever. And you can see how faulty it is. And makes one wonder, what is your agenda?
None.
You didn't feel the need to go through the proper channels.
Nope.
Right? Nor is you of the caliber to do it. So what is your agenda?
And then you say somebody's not in the sunnah, but is that the sunnah to blot our eyes? Because look at this. If you're under the opinion that videos and picking pictures are haram, blocking the eyes out made it permissible? Because you still took the picture. Like if you in the masjid in your classes and you use the camera to still frame it and then block the eyes out, according to the position that you're taking, that's not permissible. So blocking the eyes out didn't make it permissible. Don't contradict yourself now to approve an agenda. And we got to stop doing that, because the reality is that I remember Sheikh Mahmoud Al-Army he said, for individual to surround Islam around a scholar, a particular scholar, right? He said, it's not to be done for anybody except the Prophet ﷺ. He's the Imam. And then the Sahaba, we cannot gather around any scholars on any type of ijma' except theirs. Except theirs. Then he said, if anybody who does that from the Shabab, they say they're hamqa, foolish and ignorant who does this. Only foolish, ignorant young people, people who have messed up minds, try to make Islam around a scholar and then say everything has to go. He said to make one scholar a marja', he said these people are hamqa. They are hamqa who do this.
No. It is reported from Imam Ahmed that he said, لا تقلدني ولا تقلد مالك ولا شافعي ولا أوزاعي ولا ثوري وخذ من حيث أخذوا. And this is collected by, not collected, but this is actually reported by Ibn Qayyim and his book I'lam al-Waqi'in. He mentioned that Imam Ahmed said, do not blind follow me. Other words, don't take nothing I say without any dalil. Nor don't you blind follow Imam Shafi'i, nor Imam Awza'i, nor As-Sufyan al-Thawri, or any one of the Thawris for that, or the al-Thawri. He said, take from where they have taken from. Look at this. Again, take from where they have taken from. So you find out that many people, we don't understand these type of principles here, because he's safeguarding himself. Don't stop and run around saying, I said. You're not helping your brothers if you're running around saying Somali said. That don't help your brothers. Because if Somali was incorrect, then guess what? You're running around spreading that incorrectness.
Yeah, exactly.
You're running around spreading that which he wasn't correct on. And then on top of that, he doesn't even get a reward because he's not a mujtahid. He's not a mujtahid. I'm not a mujtahid. None of the brothers are mujtahidun. So they don't get a reward. Like a scholar would get a reward if he made a mistake, if he's from the mujtahidun.
Actually, you're oppressing Hassan Somali when you do that.
Exactly.
You're
so now, how much more so would it be the case if you're going to sit there and say, I don't take from Muhammad Munir because Muhammad Munir called against the scholars because Somali said and Abu Khadija said and Bilal Davis said and so forth and so on said.
Did you take your statement back to the early man? The whole statement. I mean,
that's dangerous.
Take the whole entire statement, get Mufti Munir with you, go take the statement to a scholar, everybody sits in front of that scholar, play the recording, translate it to the sheikh, then the brother can explain himself what he said. That's the proper channels. Because the reality, you took a snippet of a statement, and then you must try to twist his words and make it sound like something else. Because
not only that, if you look what you're doing now, you're cutting off the rights of another Muslim that he have a haq over you. So you're severing those ties. You're gonna be questioning about that. Not only that, you didn't stop giving him salams, which was another haq that he had over you. Not only that, you base all of this, not off what Allah said, nor His Messenger said. You base this off someone who is not even on the caliber, right? Who's just like you and I in most cases, in certain situations that have not even reached certain levels. No. And you follow them saying, well, I'm not going to take from so-and-so because this is what it is. You got commoners right now calling people racist. They're swearing up and down because of these unscholarly refutations that the brothers are putting out on Twitter.
And they don't know what the word racism means, because racism, like I said, has a belief behind it. The word racism means you believe that you're superior and your particular tribe is superior because they're black or they're white or they're Puerto Rican or whatever, that they're superior to another tribe of people because of what they are and who they are makes them superior and to be able to dominate. You're telling me that Muhammad Mufti Munir and Shadid Muhammad has that belief? Bring your proof you're truthful. Establish that, because that's a belief in the chest. So now you got to prove that they believe that blacks are superior, because if there's, you got to bring that evidence. Bring me their statements. Let's go. Let's bring your proof. Come down to the Maktaba. We can call those brothers. We'll come down here. Establish your proof that they're racist, because racism has a belief behind it. You have to establish now the belief behind it. That's proof in Islam. You have to show that and prove that.
Look what Imam Shafi said. He said, إِذَا رَأَيْتُمُونِي أقول قولا وقد صح أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم خلافه فاعلموا أن عقلي قد ذهب. Allahu Akbar. Listen to this. This is how far they would go to make sure their followers don't what? Blind followers. Don't go gulu. don't have ta'assub. This is how far they would go. Look what he said. If you see something from me, meaning you witnessed that I said something, I made a statement, and you found out that there is an authentic hadith that's in opposition to what I actually said, then he said, know that my intellect has left me.
SubhanAllah.
He said, no, fa'alamu, that my intellect has left me. Aqli qad dhahab. It has went away. This is how far they would go. Now, again, how many people say, well, you know, your brothers are going against the known callers? Akhi, if you want to be a known caller, make sure that you ma'rufeen in the law. You a known caller with Allah, not a known caller with Nas. Because our dawah efforts only going to be synced with Allah Azza wa Jalla, not what we establish here. A person can call for years. If Allah Jalla wa Ala chose not to reward you because you might have some insincerity or whatever the case may be, and I'm not talking about nobody, that's all of us, then that's only based on the law. So no one should be running around saying, yeah, respect the known callers, those who, you know, been on the ground, who's warning against Ahlul Bidah. First of all, you're not Imam Ahmed. You don't have the ibadah of Imam Ahmed. You don't have the worship of Imam Ahmed. You don't have the akhlaq of Imam Ahmed. You definitely don't have the stances that Imam Ahmed take. That takes rujula. And if the proof that you had rujula, you wouldn't be afraid to address your brother like Munir or Shadid without name calling, or like Tahir Wyatt without name calling, without going around blotting eyes out, without making unscholarly and poorly refutations. You will go to your brother and you will ask him for his dalil, for his actions. And you will grab him by the hand and say, let's go talk to any neutral scholar you want to. This is rujula. Rujula is not being Twitter fingers. No. That's not rujula. Anybody can get behind a computer and go back and forth.
Or showing pictures of your classes, how many people's in the class.
That's not manhood.
That's not manhood.
Can't imagine Imam Ahmed doing that.
And plus that goes against sincerity in some way.
Come on. Don't attach yourself to Imam Ahmed. How you gonna attach yourself to Imam Ahmed? You told me in his actions he did that. And we don't call it Imam Ahmed. But we're just saying you want to act like you want to be a thorn in Ahlul Bidah. How are you a thorn in Ahlul Bidah? You want to be a thorn in Ahlul Bidah, then be a thorn in adhering to At-Tawheed. Be a true muwahid. This is how you be a thorn in what? Be a true muwahid. Be a true person who follows and adheres to the Sunnah. This is a person being a thorn in Ahlul Bidah. Not one who just rash and calls about. Yeah, we're warning against the likes of these people. We spotted this individual. That's not warning against Ahlul Bidah. Actions.
The funny part is, and before we go on, I'm going to make this comparison. This is not about calling it us. I want everybody right now to hear this. Do not make a group around me, The Night Show, Abu Zayd, Muhammad Munir, nobody. Don't come and say because you don't like those brothers personally. Now you're gonna listen to what we're saying and try to get behind us because you don't like them. That's not Salafiyah, and that's not the Sunnah. So please don't do that. Okay, this is about the truth and falsehood, not about people's personality. The days of personalities and following behind personalities, y'all commoners is part of the problem also. You got to stop doing it. You got to stop jumping from personality to personality. Listen to what's being said and follow the truth. The issue is that if you look at what we're using principles, and we're using statements of the Salaf, and we use statements of the modern scholars. But what has been said in return hasn't been any statements of the scholars, past or present. Just been attacks, dishonor, name calling. So at the end of the day, if those brothers saying they're upon the Sunnah, then use the Sunnah to reply back to the questions you were asked. That's it. Because if you're not going to use the Sunnah, you're going to use the unknown. You're going to get on Twitter, call people names, use the word racist. These are all propaganda tactics. These are all scare tactics. These are like people hiding behind a wall, throwing rocks and ducking. That's what that is.
But more so, it's not just concentrated on what they're going to use as a response. I'm more so worried about our people, and that's us. Like the brother said, we should base our allegiance to anyone based on their adherence to the Quran and Sunnah. And this is what we have to get back to. Stop attaching ourselves to personalities. Let's start attaching ourselves to haqq. And let's start weighing those personalities towards the haqq. What they say and what they do should be based on what we know what is to be the truth. And when you know this, you're able to what? Not fall. Yep. Because it's possible that a person you like, since he's going to make a mistake, can slip and fall. Yep. And then when something happened and everybody goes against them, you find yourself supporting them, and the truth might actually be against them. And you find yourself defending him even though the truth's against him. That's because you allow yourself to be attached more so to his personality than to the actual truth. Now, Sheikh Fawzan, Hafidhullah, he was asked the question, what is the meaning of this principle? That the truth is not known by the men, and that the men are known by the truth. He explains, he said that the meaning of this is that مَا نُقَلِّدُ مُجَرَّةَ التَّقْلِيدِ, that we do not blind follow just for merely blind following anyone. We don't go around saying we're going to take everybody's word for it when it comes to this deen, even if they're a scholar. Look, قد يكون تقليد على قطع، قد يكون مجتهد مقطعي وقائل المقتل مقطي، فلا نأخذ نقول هذا قول فلان وهذا حق لأن فلان جيد وفلان عالم وفلان تقي، ما نقول هذا ما هو معصوم يكتي فنعرف الرجال بالحق. Look what he said. He says, it's possible that blind following, a person can blind follow someone upon a mistake. That person can actually make a mistake. It is possible that the one who reached the level of a mujtahid, who can derive and bring, make the rulings and derive rulings and extract rulings, this particular person also can make a mistake. It is possible that the one who make a statement can make a mistake. فَلَا نَأْخُذْ نَقُولُ, so do not take what we say. هَذَا قَوْلُ فُلَانٍ, this is the statement of so-and-so. وَهَذَا حَقٍ, and this statement of his is the truth. لِأَنَّ فُلَانُ جَيْدٌ, why is this statement the truth? Because he's a good person. Why? Because he's an alim. Why? Because he's Sheikh Rabi'. Sheikh Rabi', he's the flag bearer, Jah wa Ta'dil. So we must take it. La.
Where you get that from?
Where you get that from? No, we must ask Sheikh Rabi' his dalil. And if you know the Sheikh, and you know many of his refutations, and alhamdulillah, like he said himself, and I'm not saying this about him, he said this himself. You can go back and refer to it. He said that I am a naqid, meaning I am a criticizer. I get it right sometimes, and I get it wrong, incorrect sometimes. Understanding his level. We don't do that. Alhamdulillah, we don't make the scholars saints, because they aren't saints, and we don't follow up their mistakes. What we do is we respect them by putting them in their level. Like Sheikh Bazmoor had mentioned about the levels of the scholars, and he explained putting them in their rightful place is not putting them above their status. Not taking them above their status nor below them, but putting them right in the place that Allah Jalla wa Ala and His Messenger have set them to be. He continues. He said, nor if person righteous. He's a righteous person, so trust me, I know he's good for it. He said, don't take from Shadid. What was his evidence? Don't take from Shadid. Yeah, he said Shadid, he said Shadid but already been warned against, so don't take from him.
Well, what was his evidence? I know these brothers to be on the Sunnah. That's not dalil. Because Imam Ahmed was on the Sunnah more than most of us, and all of us, all four Imams. And they told you, don't take my statements. Not unless if it doesn't go aside with the Sunnah, throw my statement against the wall. So at the end of the day, when you tell me a noble brother said they're upon the Sunnah, they're trustworthy to the scholars and this and that, that's not enough statement, enough proof in Islam for me to accept his jar or his time. I don't have to accept that because he's the person of the Sunnah.
All right, now that's something different. Understand there's two things. One, to understand someone speaking about Allah's religion, we have to ask for dalil. Now for the brothers to only not go past that stage, but to go into the other stage of Jah wa Ta'dil. Brothers and sisters, to go into that stage is another level. Yeah. Just speaking about Allah as His religion. You have to now understand you have to be equipped for that. This is why Sheikh Muhammad al-Hadi, he told those brothers when he had them sign that agreement not to leave it off. Because now look what happens. Whenever you allow a man to say that another man is not upon the religion and is up to them and is not up to Allah and His Messenger, it becomes chaos. That means today I might not like you. So me and my friends that are close to me, we get together and we say, you know what, we don't like that brother. That brother, this, and that. So let's follow up his classes. Let's follow up his audios. Anything that he say that we can twist or we can turn around and we can put inside the people's mind. This is what we're going to do.
This is what we're going to do.
And then we're going to gang up and we're going to do that.
And no scholar is sanctioning this.
And nobody is sanctioning this. Why? Because it becomes oppressive. It becomes oppressive because now it's left up to your shacks. The people that was doing Jah wa Ta'dil, if you read the book from Sheikh Muhammad Imam about, it's called Al-Ibana, he explained that they had a level of taqwa. Not everyone was suitable for this type of science. They didn't just jump around saying, I want to warn from this person or warn from that person. La. No, you got to be careful. So the Sheikh, he continues. He said, no one is free, error-free. People make mistakes. So we know the men by the truth. الَّذِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ يَقُدُونَ دَلِيلٍ يُعْرَفُونَ بِأَنَّهُمْ عُلَمَاء وَالَّذِينَ مَا يَهْتَمُونَ بِالدَّلِيلِ هَؤُلَاءِ لَيْسَ أَهْلُ فِقْهٍ. He said, we know the people about. He said, we know the dalil. We know what? We know the people. He said, الَّذِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ. Those people that we're talking about that's known by the truth are those who take the evidence. They are known. They are known to be what? And they are the scholars. وَالَّذِينَ مَا يَهْتَمُونَ بِالدَّلِيلِ هَؤُلَاءِ. And these are the ones who do not belittle, or they do not go against what is or they don't make it like careless as far as evidence. ليسوا أهل الفقه وليسوا أهل علم لا يؤخذ قولهم على علته وعلى طول أبدا لازم يعرض على الدليل فإن شهد له دليل فهو حق. So in other words, they don't say, for example, that these people, they are not from the people of fiqh, or they are not from the people of knowledge, so we do not take their statements, yani, or all this kalam in terms of that. Rather, it's incumbent upon that the evidence be presented, and if the evidence is a witness for a person, his statement or his actions, then that's the truth. And if it's in opposition to his statements or his actions, then we reject it. لكن هو إذا كان مجتهد وأخطأ فإنه he said يؤجر على اجتهاده وأما إذا كان متعمدا لقطعه فإنه يأثم نعم. He says, so if the person who makes this mistake or his statement or his action, he makes a mistake and he's a mujtahid, like we said before, then his mistake, he get a reward for it. Because he's going to get one reward if he makes that mistake. Not like you and I, not like Somali and Abu Khadija. If any of us, even you brothers and sisters, Abu Khadija, us, if any one of us make a mistake, we don't get a reward for it. We are not from the mujtahidun.
Nope.
We're not from the ulama. We do not get that. That's not written for us. He said, فَإِنْ شَهِدَ لَهُ دَلِيلٌ. He said, then he said the last. He said, as for the one who makes a mistake deliberately. Now, we're talking about the deen. He does something or he says something that's deliberately, intentionally, then he's a person who's sinning. Na'am. So then we're going to move on to the kalam of Sheikh Obayd, bi'ithnillah. Sheikh Obayd also explained this principle. يُعْرَفُ الرِّجَالَ بِالْحَقِّ وَلَا يُعْرَفُ حَقَّ بِالرِّجَالِ. The men are known by the truth. And يُعْرَفُ الرِّجَالَ بِالْحَقِّ. The men are known by the truth. And the truth is not known by the men.
Sheikh Obayd, he says, معناه أنه ما نقلد مجرد التقليد قد يكون التقليد على خطأ قد يكون مجتهد مخطئ وقائل مخطئ فلا نقول هذا قول فلا
لا that's Sheikh Fawzan. I just read that.
Oh, here we go.
Here you go.
قال الشيخ علامة عبيد عبد الله جابي حفظه الله. He says القاعدة الثانية يعرف الرجال بالحق ولا يعرف الحق بالرجال. He said the second principle, he says that the men are known by the truth and the truth is not known by men. معنى هذه قاعدة أن إنسان يوصف بالتمسك أنه من أهل السنة وأنه على الحق الذي لا تشبه شائبة بدع وخرافة إذا كان على الحق. And he says that this principle, meaning that verily the human being or the person is described with being tamasuk, holding on, than being from the people of the sunnah. If he's upon the truth and he doesn't have any bid'ah, and he's not upon bid'ah or any type of madness from like the khurafa, like the Sufi and things like that. So either kana ala haq, if he was upon the truth. علامة أدل عليه من تهج من حق في أقواله وأعماله هذا هو شطر الأول. He said the first thing we have to do is that an individual, you have to look at his actions and his statements. First, you look at the actions and the statements of the individual. Is it something this person is doing that's really going against the sunnah? That's what you got to ask yourself. Is somebody come and say this person not Salafi, this person not on the point of sunnah? The first thing you got to do, because that person has rights over you too. The first thing you got to do, okay, I hear you, but let me go talk to this brother. Let me go look at some of his clips in this, because all the classes are recorded. Let me go listen. No, I don't see nothing the brother's action and state that makes him think he's an innovator. The people got to start being just too.
Also, just before you go on, this also goes back to what we were saying before about the dawabit and the Sheikh Ahmed Najjar was bringing. If his also, and this is what the Sheikh is alluding to here, if his also is Quran, Sunnah, Fahm, Salaf, you have to now be willing to make some type of excuse here.
Exactly.
Because if that's his also, and he's not known for the opposite of that, he's known for being upon the Sunnah and tread upon the Sunnah, you have to now make some type of excuse. And by way of doing that is, you're going to have to go even through his works, like Brother Isa said. You're going to have to go, if he have any books that are written, if you have any audios that are recorded, then you go back and you listen. If you see if that statement that seemed funny to you, if you see that in his earlier works or any other of his works that is not consistent, then perhaps he made a mistake in that area or in that particular subject, then you still going to what?
No.
You're still going to make an excuse for him. Why? Because his also, again, the Sheikh is saying again, his also is Quran, Sunnah, Fahm, Salaf.
And the thing about when he says the men is not known by the, meaning that you got to look at a person's statement and action. If the usul and the majority of his actions and statements coincides with Quran, Sunnah, Ijma', don't make excuses for the brother. But you're gonna look at everybody you can stand. You can watch people, everybody on earth, other than the Prophet ﷺ, who's in the grave in Medina. Everybody, you watch enough of their statements and actions, you're gonna find a mistake.
No.
Everybody.
That's everybody.
That's just how it's going to go. At that point, you got to say, oh, he's a person of the Sunnah. He takes from these three sources of information. At that point, you got to go correct the brother's mistake, not put him on blast.
And not only that, men are not known, the truth are not known by men.
Exactly.
What's understood by that? The truth just not known because so-and-so scholar praised you.
Exactly.
We have to get from that. Because there are many students who have benefited from scholars and they still went left field.
Exactly.
Why? Because that scholar is not Allah Azza wa Jal. That scholar doesn't have the ability to protect someone from not going from innovation. He can make dua for him, he can guide him, he can give him advice, but he cannot guarantee him that he won't go astray. The Prophet ﷺ made that clear. Inna Allah, that really Allah Jalla wa Ala is the one what? No. That guy, whoever Allah Jalla wa Ala guide, there's no one who can lead astray. And whoever he leads astray, there's no one to guide. This is something that Allah Jalla wa Ala and His Messenger have established. So we can't say the brothers are known by the scholars. The scholars, they praise them. Okay, there are scholars who praise Sheikh Tahir, but you don't take that praise. You say that praise don't mean nothing. We're still going to call him a deviant. There are scholars who praise, there are scholars who praise other individuals. We're not going to take that praise. We're going to say, no, he's a deviant because these scholars are in Sheikh Rabi'. These scholars are in the flag bearers. This isn't their specialty. These scholars are in Sheikh Muhammad ibn Hadi. These scholars are in Sheikh Obayd. And the reality is, brothers and sisters, in this deen we have what we call tafawwud. We have levels. And trust and believe that there are scholars that are on levels. And unfortunately enough that you find that many people, they say, they read Sheikh Fawzan works. They read Sheikh Luhaydan, or they read from Sheikh Salih Rahimi. They read from a lot of their works and they use it in their classes and their masajids and they quote their statements. But when you ever find them saying stuff like, go back to the legend of Da'ima. When you find them saying that when it comes to the fitna, don't get involved. Don't deal with Jahwa Ta'adil. You always see people, especially from these brothers, it's just that they belittle that stuff. It's like, okay, well, this is not really the Sheikh Mutakhasis. This is not the Sheikh field. We're going to go with Sheikh Rabi' on this.
And the only reason they do that because it goes along with their agenda. People, stop being afraid and stop being fooled. We're giving you the principles of not blind following and what the Salaf said about blind following. Don't be afraid because they throw scholar names at you. Because everybody is tied to these principles, even scholars. So those same scholars, they're trying to tie you to and bind you to and say that you have to take their reputations and everything they say and things like that. End of the day, that scholar is tied to these principles. If that scholar says something, you look into the principle yourself and you say, I don't agree. You don't have to agree. You don't have to be binded. The days of fear should be over. We're giving you the tools from the Salaf. Use the tools. Every time you see a statement, take that statement and apply it to the principle.
Apply it to the principle.
The days of being afraid is over.
And ask for dalil. Matter of fact, get in the habit of asking for dalil.
That's right.
What is the dalil? Dalil is not Sheikh Obayd said.
No.
Dalil is not that. Dalil is Allah said, His Messenger said. Where can I find that, brother? Where can I this, and that? Can I find that? Can I ask for the dalil? Especially when someone talking about somebody deviant. You definitely have to ask for dalil.
So then he said, "La yu'raf al-haqq bi-rijali." He said that the truth is not known by men. He said, وَمَعْنَا أَنَّهُ لَيْسَ مُجَرَّدٍ سُلُوكٍ الرجل بقول أو فعل هو دلة على أنه مصيب. He says that what is it meant by the truth is not known by men? He said meaning not just by a person's behavior or his statement or his action. This is not a proof because those things are good that everything he said he's correct in. Just because you know the person to be upright, you know the person to have good character, to have good statements, to be righteous, upright, have knowledge. Just because he said it, that doesn't make it true. Only the Prophet ﷺ had that right, and the messengers before him. Everybody outside of the messengers and the prophets, if they made a statement, no matter what their level may have been, that doesn't mean it was correct in the statement.
No, that doesn't mean that. It
doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that. Then the Shaykh continues. He said, "Bel كما قدمت لكم الحكم على أقوال وأعمال عند السلفيين وعند أهل السنة والجماعة وعند طائفة المنصورة عند أهل الحديث عند فرق الناجية ميزانان فقط نص وإجماع." And he said, no, rather it's not like that. It's what we have already shown before and to you from the different rulings. How do we judge a statement and an action? And for the Salafiyin and to Ahlul Sunnah and the people of gathering Sunnah and Jama'ah and the saved sect, He said there's two things that we use. It's two scales that we use to judge everybody's statement and action. It's the text of Quran and Sunnah and ijma'.
And ijma'. Now, brothers and sisters, what we get from this? We see
Sheikh
that
Obayd
all of the scholars are similar what?
Same.
Saying the same thing.
Yeah.
From the scholars of old to the scholars of now. So, brothers and sisters, let's ask a question. Where is Abu Khadija and Hassan Somali and them? Where is they getting these principles from that they must take it upon themselves now to refute other Salafis and to refute people? Where did they get this concept from? They must got it from somewhere. Where did they get it from? Where did they get that, you know, when a person make a statement, we have to say something? Where did they get this from? Because here we seeing that the scholars are saying what? This is not the case. You have to be extremely careful when you want to label someone a deviant.
No.
Sheikh Fawzan said that's the job of who? The scholars. That's the job of the scholars. He said it in reality, when it comes to the job of the scholars, those who have knowledge, it also goes back to the haqq of Allah, haqq of Rasuli. It goes back to the right of Allah and the light of His messenger.
No.
That's who really can place tabdir. The scholars are only going to use the evidence that they're going to level against. This is clear.
Subhanallah. And really what it's called is, like Sheikh Khalid Uthman said, may Allah protect our brothers and us from this haddadiyya. To always, every time somebody makes a mistake, he's off the manhaj like that, without proof and evidence, you don't take the necessary steps to deal with the mistake, or you don't take the necessary steps, the principles that have been laid out by the Salaf, how to deal with bid'ah, or somebody from the Sunnah who makes a mistake, how to deal with this statement and this action. If we're not using the proper steps, then it's called haddadiyya. That's what it's called.
Especially when you go into extreme bounds outside of those limits.
That's what it's called.
And we got to be respectful of Allah and His messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we also have to hold people accountable, brothers and sisters. Hold people accountable. No. If I say something incorrect, then you need to correct me, inshallah.
No doubt.
If Isa say something correct, then correcting. This is how, you know, ta'awun and brotherhood works.
And we didn't leave the manhaj because we made a mistake or you made one. That doesn't take you outside the manhaj.
Not at all. It doesn't take you outside. Now, there are scholars that laid down principles, but it still ain't in our hands to do that, inshallah ta'ala. So I believe that our beloved brothers over the years, and I'm sorry to say that, but as we see from their actions of late, whenever they are asked for dalil, they do not respond but with name calls. And whenever they are asked, you know, to cease what they're doing, they just go back to retweeting and making clips and blotting out eyes. Then that means for us to stop them and to help them while they're being the oppressor, to do that, that means we now have to take the next step. We have to start listening to the ulama again, and we have to go back and revisit these principles and unfree ourselves and disattach ourselves from people personalities and start weighing them towards the truth. Okay, you said such and such. Your action said such and such. It's in opposition to what we know to be the truth. We're not following you in that. And if you insist on but carrying it that way, whereas it becomes lying or slandering against your brother or this community or that masjid, then now what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to now say to myself, just like you do to a doctor, you do to a dentist, you do to anybody that's going to do something legal, or to a lawyer, you're going to say, I'm not going to go to him. He didn't represent me correct. He didn't do right. I don't think he knows he's special. Is he even licensed? Do you have this? You're going to have to make that statement. You're going to have to make that choice. I'm not going there no more. I'm not doing this no more. No, we're not calling you to say, stay away from the brothers. But this behavior that the brothers have been showing us of late, without any dalil, and all they keep doing is calling us to the statements of Sheikh Obayd and Sheikh Rabi', just to the statements of scholars. That's all they calling us to. Not the evidence that the scholars use, but just general statements of scholars. And then they quote plenty athars. And it sounds like fanatical to me. It's just a bunch of athars. You're like, well, that don't got nothing to do with nothing. At the end of the day, you're bringing all these athars with no scholarly overlook. There's no scholarly saying, let's put this in its proper place. No scholarly.
And it's also, too, in the midst of using those statements out of place, they also calling people names and attacking people's honor at the same time. That those scholars didn't do and don't do.
You can take the Bluetooth from, inshallah. Yeah, and they don't do that. For whatever reason, you find that these individuals, this is something that they don't do. This is something that you see that they don't do. You know, this is something that you see. Brothers and sisters, before we let y'all go tonight, we're going to play Sheikh Obayd, rahmatullah ta'ala alayh, and see how serious this issue is. Bi-idhnillah. It's off.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
It's not long. It's very short. And I just want you to see how the scholars, those who we quote, look how they behave because they know about these evidence.
قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم
يقول يستأذن في قصيدة هل ترغبون هذا لا؟ نعم.
So this is concerning a individual who's in a young lad, a youth, as the Sheikh said, he's shabab. He's a shab from one of the shabab, that he wanted to say a poem. And this poem he wanted to recite in front of Sheikh Obayd, rahmatullah ta'ala alayh.
نعم. طيب.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد يا فضيلة الشيخ أستأذنكم.
So after, after starting with the Basmalah, he's asking the Sheikh permission, can he recite this poem?
قصيدة.
نعم.
يا أمتي إن هذا الليل يعقبه فجر وأنواره في الأرض تنتشر والخير مرتقب.
So he mentioned that, when he starts off his line of poetry, O Ummah, and he said that his lights on the earth would spread and his goodness would come. Look at the words he's saying.
والفتح منتظر والحق.
And he said, and victory is expected as the truth will prevail despite the efforts of evil.
رغم جهود الشر منتصر وبصحوة بارك الباري مسيرتها نقية ما.
And he said, with an awakening that Allah has blessed, its march is pure. He said, with no defaults or difficulties.
بها شوب ولا كدر ما دام فينا ابن صالح.
He said, as long as there exists amongst us Ibn Salih, meaning Sheikh Obayd, all of this goodness, everything that he just mentioned is taking place as long as Sheikh Obayd remain with us. Pay attention.
ما دام فينا ابن صالح شيخ صحوتنا بمثل.
The leader of our awakening, with people such as him, we hope for triumph and success.
يرتجى التأييد والظفر.
أنا لا أوافق على هذا.
So the Sheikh said, La, I don't agree with this part of the poem. Pay attention. The Sheikh said, La, I do not agree with this part of the poem.
لا لا أوافق لأني لا.
He said, no, I don't agree because I don't want the truth to be linked to any man. I do not want the truth to be linked to any man. This goes for anybody. We're not going to rally around Sheikh Tahir. Many people make a statement, they say, well, it seems like the brothers are defending them, so much so that if they say that, if they are law, you'll find these individuals trying to figure out a way to defend them and saying that. Well, don't go extreme. No, we're not rallying around Sheikh Tahir. We're not rallying around Ali Davis. So that you don't know, the night shift is not in support of individuals.
No.
No matter whosoever they may be. No, we're not. We attach ourselves to Haqq. And we defend our brothers wheresoever they may be. We do not attach ourselves because Tahir has some academic prowess. We understand that he's a human. And we ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to increase him in goodness and to make sure his journey is safe. But at the same time, we don't blind follow and we don't take his word for it when it comes to this deen. We ask him the same. What's your dalil?
No.
So this is very important to understand that we're trying to get our stuff away from it.
And also we've defended how Somali Abu Hanifa, if somebody made fun of them and showed pictures of them in a bad light or the gun in his hand and this and that and the third and all this other stuff like that, at the same time we won't allow that to happen in front of us. We haven't allowed it to happen in front of us. Anybody call those brothers a deviants or call those brothers out their name, we have stopped individuals from doing that, even though we don't get that in return. It's not about that. It's about the fact that we do not attach ourselves to anybody's personality. We will defend any of our brothers' honor if it's transgressed in front of us.
Nah.
أن يربط الحق بالأشخاص. كل شخص يأكل.
He said everyone will die. If we link the truth to individuals,
فإذا ربطنا الحق بالأشخاص معناها.
This means if the individuals die, what's going to happen? The people are going to lose hope. Mm-hmm. We found this with Umar ibn Khattab. If anyone know the seerah or the history of Khalid ibn Walid, if you remember the reason why Umar ibn Khattab, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he removed Khalid ibn Walid from being the Amir. the leaders of the Muslims. And we know that when Khalid ibn Walid, he was fierce in battle. And we know that he had great military strategy. And we know that he led many victories. But the point was that Umar, he feared that the people will rely on Khalid ibn Walid for victory, more so relying on Allah Azza wa Jal. So he removed Khalid ibn Walid from that position based on that, because he didn't want people to what? Become fanatically to what? To have to also towards Khalid ibn Walid and link their victory with him. Look what the Sheikh said. We don't want the truth linked to no man.
أن الإنسان إذا مات قد ييأس الناس من هذا. فأقول إذا كان يمكنك الآن تبدل البيت ما دام فينا كتاب الله وسنة رسوله هذا طيب.
And also Abu Bakr. Remember Abu Bakr said, if you worship Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad has died.
Yeah, whoever worship Allah Azza wa Jal, then he worship the one who's all living, doesn't die.
Exactly.
And now you see here, he corrects him. So now he don't criticize him. He don't cause him to despair. Like many of our brothers, you ask them for dalil, and they say to you, well, anyone that knows, they know it's established already. You're just trying to defend you or hitting hizbi. La, correct me. Give me some dalil. So he tell him to what? He gave him a substitute. He said, won't you say, as long as amongst us we have the book of Allah and the Sunnah, hada tayyib. This is good. This is better than what you said before. This is better.
He didn't refute him and say he wasn't on the manhaj.
SubhanAllah.
ما دام فينا كتاب الله سنة رسوله. ابن العثيمين.
SubhanAllah. Look, the young lad go back to it again. SubhanAllah. You see how love for individuals can be?
It's dangerous.
It's how sainthood happened.
Well, that's how the people of Nuh fell into making worship in the idols. The people, righteous people, died amongst them, and Shaitan knew they loved them, so he played that love with them. That personality love they had for him. He eventually went from loving their personalities to actually worshiping them as their deities other than Allah.
SubhanAllah. He went right back after the Sheikh told him to exchange it, right, for something better. And he said Ibn Salih again. Just because of his love for the Sheikh. But even though that love might seem innocent, it's still incorrect, so the truth had to still be known.
Exactly. Another thing is deep, how the man fell into the same mistake again, still didn't take him off the manhaj.
No, he didn't. Also, the people in the audience was telling the Sheikh, let him finish. They were saying, let him finish his poem. The Sheikh said, La nuwafiq bihadha. He said, no, I must stop him. I cannot, we don't agree with that. We cannot let him go on. Now look at the Jews he's getting ready to drop. So he said, the young lad, he said, oh, okay, I'm not going to say Ibn Salih, but now I'm going to say our scholars. You see what's going on here? Instead of him just saying the book of Allah and the Sunnah, which is, these two things are unfallible. They are wahi from Allah Azza wa Jal. They don't have mistakes. You see? They are free. But yet you're going to go back and tie the truth again to men instead of to these two things. As the Prophet ﷺ said, what? What did he say? He said, I left you upon a clear guidance.
The kitab Allah was sunnati.
You will never go astray if you stay firm to these two things.
He didn't say
not
scholars.
men.
He didn't say men and personalities. In fact, Kitab al-Tawheed actually sanctions this in Kitab al-Tawheed.
نعم أبدا ما له داعي يا رجال بس أنا أنصحكم الآن من الآن.
He said, I advise you from now on to not attach the truth to any individual. I know we mentioned that before.
وبعد الآن أن لا تجعلوا الحق مربوطا بالرجال. الرجال أولا يضلون.
He said people can stray from the right path. Look at the athar you get ready to bring from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu.
حتى ابن مسعود يقول من كان مستنا فليستن بمن مات.
Look at the Sahabas, ridwanullah alayhim. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he said, whoever wants to follow someone way, then let him follow the ways of those who already did. Allahu Akbar.
No.
Let him follow the way of those who already passed away. For a living person is not safe from fitna. Whoever want to follow someone's tariqah, someone's minhaj, then let him follow the minhaj of the salaf that passed.
Exactly.
Okay? Because the what? Whoever is alive, he's subjected to fitna.
He's not safe from changing.
He's not safe from changing. An individual, if connected to the truth, if you connect the truth to him, this person may feel proud of himself and straight from the right path.
يمكن الإنسان يقترب نفسه نعوذ بالله من ذلك ويسلك طرقا غير صحيحة. ولذلك أنا أنصحكم الآن.
For this, I advise you now not to attach the truth to individuals.
أن لا تجعلوا الحق مقيدا بالرجال. الرجل أولا ما يأمن الإنسان، نسأل الله يثبتنا وإياكم.
He said the first thing is a person is not safe from going astray of fitna, and I ask Allah to keep us firm upon the deen. Ameen.
Ameen.
ما يأمن الزلل والفتنة. وثانيا.
He says secondly, a person would die and no one will remain alive.
إنه يأس يموت، ما هو أحد يبقى. أبا وما جعلنا لبشر من قبلك الخلد. أفا.
And then he brings the ayat in Surah Al-Anbiya where Allah Jalla wa Ala mentioned that we have not granted to any man immortality, meaning we didn't grant him to live forever. Okay? Then if you die, would you live forever? La. And thirdly, the son of Adam is a human being. He might feel pride, he might feel arrogant.
ربما يغتر إذا رأى الناس يعني يبجلونه ويكرمونه ويلتفون حوله، ربما يغتر ويظن أنه معصوم ويدعي نفسه العصمة.
And will think that he is infallible and claims infallibility and that everything he does is right. Brothers and sisters, this is how we protect ourselves and we protect our brothers. Do not overpraise people. Do not overpraise people. He's getting ready to bring another hadith. He said, in every route he takes is allowed. In this, there is destruction. And for this,
for
this reason, when the man praised another man in the presence of the Prophet ﷺ, guess what the Prophet said to him? He said, woe to you, you have cut off the head of your companion, or you have broke the back of your companion. And he said, and I thank the brother who said this poem in advance, even though I have not heard. This is the adab of the ulama. And even with that, we don't blind follow Sheikh Obayd.
No.
And Sheikh Obayd doesn't want the truth to be linked to him.
And he didn't call the boy a fool, an idiot, an ahmaq.
He didn't do all that, those things. Brothers and sisters, stop worshiping the du'ats. Stop making it seem, and what I mean by worshiping the du'ats, no, I'm not saying you make a salat to them. I'm not saying that. You're fasting for them. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying in the very essence of taking their statements over Allah and His Messenger indirectly can be a form of shirk that you don't know. And this is what happened with the shirk al-ta'ah. And this is called shirk al-ta'ah. You have to understand that shirk and obedience. This is what happened with the priests and the rabbis. What they started doing, as Allah Jalla wa Ala said, they took what? They took what? They took the rahban, right? Arbab min dunillah. They took these rahban and they took their priests and their rabbis as lords besides Allah. So Adi ibn Hatim, the companion, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said to the Prophet ﷺ, no, they haven't. Right? So the Prophet ﷺ said, yes, they did. Did they not command them to do something that was permissible? Did they not tell them something that's permissible that was impermissible? Or did they not do something that was impermissible permissible?
They made it permissible.
So they made it permissible. So in them obeying them and that which was halal and haram, it became an error. These things are to safeguard us.
You can fall into that if you keep going the way you're going.
And this is why we have this problem. How can you allow someone, wallahi, how can you allow someone to tell you, do not take from that particular person without any evidence, just because a group of them agree on it, and they all on Twitter just sharing it back and forth? That's because this masjid seemed to be, and first of all, we gotta get past this understanding that, yeah, I'm at the place to be, this is the masjid, it's on the haqq, we upon clarity. First of all, how do you know you're upon clarity? Every salaf, from the Sahabas on down, they all feared. When Umar ibn Khattab was on his deathbed after he got stabbed, and he's getting ready to die, and Abdullah ibn Abbas was sitting right there with him, and he said that Rally, I'm getting ready to bark. He didn't know where he was at. He was actually afraid that he was getting ready to go, and he was promised paradise. Yeah. He had 2 permanent teardrops on his face. Yeah. These are people who was afraid of that stuff. Abu Huraira, when he's getting ready to die, he said, I'm getting ready to go on a slippery slope. I don't know if I'm going to end up in paradise or in the hellfire. This was their mindsets and their companions. None of these people are greater than them.
They fear hypocrisy.
And they fear hypocrisy, and they fear what? That they would actually meet Allah's torment.
Yeah, exactly.
So how can you run around and say that this person's upon clarity? I don't know no one that talks like that. Wallahi, I don't know no one from the Salaf that talks about we are upon clarity. Wallahi, I hope that we are upon clarity. And last but not least, I want to mention this. I know Brother Isa, he might want to mention something to you. I want to mention this last thing, brothers and sisters. If y'all don't really know what's going on, we're going to explain to you what's going on, and we're going to end it with this. What's really going on is this. There are a group of scholars that might not be senior scholars. Some of them are, and some of them aren't. And that these group of scholars, some of the brothers, they have studied under them, not really studied with them, but they have studied some of their books, and you know, and they have went visit these sheikhs, sat down with these sheikhs, these scholars, and what they did is they try to make a pact with these scholars, so that in way of endorsing those scholars, in turn the scholars will endorse them. This is what they done, okay? And for those who don't know, this is what they have been doing. So in terms, there are senior scholars that you would never see them have an audience with. There are senior scholars that are more senior than the scholars that they take from, okay? And they will never have an audience with them because those scholars don't entertain that. See, they can't get that endorsement from those scholars. So what they do to you and I that you don't know, when they play the game that they play is, Pat, barakallahu fiqh. The game that the game that they play is this. They will make it seem as if whatever come from the scholars that they endorse, and they believe they endorse them in turn, they are the ones that we need to we need to return our affairs back to. They are the ones that we need to listen to. They are the ones that we need to take their statements. And then the other scholars who we don't have a good rapport with, that we cannot go to them and, you know, run back and forth because they're not going for it. These particular scholars, you don't see them, they don't really put them up there like that.
Nope.
They don't place them up on those pedestals. Yeah, they read from their works because it's, you know, it's just good comedy. And then what else they do is, I'm gonna tell you what else, it's actually what they do, and you have to pay attention to this really, really, really closely, because they've been doing this for years, and it's not good. Is that now they have taken upon themselves as not referring to the scholars and everything. And they use phrases like the scholars have said, or the scholars of this, because they play on you and I intelligence. They think that, okay, if they translate it for the scholar and the scholar praised them in this instance, then they must be correct in this instance. No, they never went back to that particular scholar and asked that scholar anything.
No, they didn't.
They took it upon themselves to refute. And this is what you see a lot with the brothers.
When they say scholars said, as if it's a ijma' on it. The scholars said, what scholars? 2, 3? Because only 2 or 3. So at the end of the day, you say the scholar said, what scholar? As if it's an ijma' about what you're about to say.
And what's the proof that what Sheikh Rabi'a said, and Sheikh Obayd said, and Sheikh Muhammad Hadi said, and Sheikh Abdullah Bukhari said, what's the proof that their statements, okay, because they're scholars, what's the proof that their statements is elevated over the statements of other scholars? How do we determine that?
How do we determine that?
How do we determine that we take that? And what's the proof to say that they believe that their jah is mufassir, and that you have to take that over a general praise, right? Because it's more additional information. Who's to decide that? So you see what happens here? Then we make wala wa bara over this stuff. So you got students who say, okay, I'm going to ride what Sheikh Obayd said. Sheikh Obayd told me to do this. Sheikh Rabi', he said to Tahir Wyatt, write the bayan. Sheikh Khalid Radadi told him not to.
Yeah.
So who's to say now Tahir didn't listen to Sheikh Rabi', didn't write it, and Sheikh Khalid Radadi told him not to, and he listened to the other Sheikh. Who's to say now, okay, we're going to take Sheikh Rabi''s stance on it, and we're going to warn against
other scholars told him not to write it. Other scholars told him not to write it. Scholars in Medina told him not to write it. He said there was no need for it. For Madhab, it was already clear.
So why are we arguing over statements of the scholars?
Yeah.
Why are we sitting here arguing over statements of the scholars? Show me where Sheikh Rabi', I want to hear it. Wallahi, it's like crickets. Ask any one of them. Show me where Sheikh Rabi' said that Tahir Wyatt was a mubtadi'. He was a deviant.
And you can't take from him.
I don't care. I'm not worried about the part he said he can't take from him. I want to know if he said he was a deviant. Show us where he said he was a deviant.
And the Sheikh needs his reason and his dalil.
Because we're going to ask for his dalil.
We're going to ask for it.
Show us where Sheikh Obayd called Shadid a deviant. Not He's Dal Mudil, and we already got the background on that. Show us where he said he was a deviant. Because it was mentioned, and y'all can go, it's already recorded, that Kashif Khan, he placed out there that Sheikh Obayd, and Kashif Khan got to be really, really careful because he got to bring this audio. He placed it out there that Sheikh Obayd have called Shadi Muhammad khabith, wicked, as well as saying that Shadi Muhammad is a spy, a jasus.
Yeah.
Waliyadu billah. And we got to be careful because I don't believe that Sheikh Obayd said this. You see, he got to let me hear that. Because calling someone a spy, brothers and sisters, is what? What is that?
It basically makes it saying call somebody a kafir.
It's like calling somebody a kafir. We got to be careful. Kashif Khan, if you said that, you're going to have to bring your proof that Sheikh Obayd said that. And I'm going to take that from you and not from them. I'm going to take that that was from you, and I'm not going to take that that was from Sheikh Obayd. And if Sheikh Obayd have known that you make that statement, which we should call him, which inshallah ta'ala we get his number, we call him, we're going to say, Kashif Khan have narrated or reported on your behalf to the students here in the West, or to the people here in the West, that you have said about Shadi Muhammad that he is a khabith and that he is a jasus, he is a spy. And guess what? If he said that I said that, we're going to say, Aina dalil.
Yeah, we're going to ask for his proof.
We're going to ask him for his proof. Bottom line, this is haq. This is haq. And inshallah ta'ala, Sheikh Rabi', brothers and sisters, no disrespect, Sheikh Rabi' is not the murtajir. We got to get out of this concept. There's no one scholar, like Sheikh Luhaydan said. There's no scholar who can give a person the authority here in the West to have rule and preside over the West. No. We hold the sheikhs, the shuyukh in high esteem and give them their rights to the law and His Messenger gave them.
No.
That's what we give them. We don't give them the rights outside of what the law and His Messenger gave them. We don't say that one scholar is the turn to. The teacher of Sheikh Rabi', he said, Sheikh Muhsin, for those who don't know, Sheikh Abdul Muhsin Al-Abad, he said that it's upon the people to return, and this is the Sheikh opinion, turn to the legend Madaima when it comes to these fitna of Jahr wa Ta'dil. He said, does that?
No, that's what he said.
So if he's telling us
to a body of scholars.
He's told us to go back to a body of scholars, and here we got brothers over here telling us, no, that we need to go back to these particular scholars.
Well, Sheikh Rabi', first of all, the brother went back to Sheikh Rabi' years ago, and brother said they came and did the same thing. So you keep telling us to go back to one name, one scholar. Why I always got to be back to Sheikh Rabi'? Why can't we go to the legend? Why can't we go to Muqsa al-Abad and Sheikh Luhaydan and Sheikh Salih Fawzan? Why I got to be going back to Sheikh Rabi' by name like that? We got to stop doing. We just had a whole class on not having ta'assub and blind following, and you still telling me to go back to one scholar, just like the boy in the poem.
And not on top of that, these brothers aren't worrying about that. Just ask Muhammad Jamaica. Just ask Yusuf. Ask Abu Yusuf Khalifa. Ask him what happened when they went to Sheikh Rabi'ah's house, and they have it. You see it online. Tell me where those brothers honored the instructions and the advice that our elder and our father Sheikh Rabi' gave us. Tell me where they honored that. Ask him. And inshallah ta'ala, in terms of asking Sheikh Rabi' stance on Tahir Wyatt, even if the Sheikh, like again, even if the Sheikh say don't take him, take from him, he's still going to have to bring proof. And if the Sheikh, I doubt the Sheikh ever said this, if the Sheikh said he's an innovator, he's still going to have to bring proof. And if he stick to it and he brings his proof, it's still not binding on everyone to take it. Why? Because this is called hukm ta'yin. And we explained this from the Salaf.
Nah.
When a specific ruling coming from a specific scholar or a specific individual is not binding unless there's all the conditions are met and the mawani' is removed. And this is how it goes. Not that we just say, okay, we're going to take it because Sheikh Rabi' said.
I mean, because the reality is that when we have a situation where almost all the scholars in Medina, either directly or indirectly praising Tahir, what we do with that? It's funny how we don't go ask them about Tahir.
With proof. Proof is not the statement of Sheikh Rabi'. Proof is not saying, we're talking about deviancy. And I'm going to mention this one time so people can understand that. We are not saying that Abu Khadija and Hassan Somali and them, that they taking the stance of one scholar against a person is incorrect in and of itself. That's not what we're saying. We're saying, what's the proof for you and your followers or the lay people that you teach that you can say that these brothers are deviants? Understand the difference. We just want the dalil that they are deviants, not they hang with so-and-so. They want a flyer with so-and-so. They gave a talk at so-and-so masjid. Or they did this. Not that. We want to know dalil according to the Salaf. The Salaf said that if you go against the usul, okay, if you go against those noble actions of worship, like wiping over the cliffs and things like that, and that all the conditions are met, this is what they said. Show us that they are deviants. That's what we asking for. We're not saying we're going against any proof. Sheikh Rabi' is not a proof in and of itself. I would never take that. And the Sheikh don't take that. He actually disliked you calling him a flag bearer. He said none of the Sahabas called themselves these type of lofty names. This is his speech, not mine.
No, well, yeah, and proof is, a statement of a scholar is not a proof. Proof is the reason for the refutation and the proof, meaning you bring the person's statements and actions, and then you take the Sunnah and the Ijma' and the Quran, and you take it and you place it in front of the person's statements and prove the person left the manhaj. That's proof.
The dalil of any scholar by himself, we say that we accept it, but when it comes to placing takfir or tafsiq, then this has specific rulings. And refer back to the ulama on this. That mean when they place that proof for placing someone upon declaring takfir on him, saying he's a kafir or he's an innovator or he's a fasik, then now the other scholars going to question him and they're going to make sure that he's following all of the guidelines. And then you're going to have scholars that exist that doesn't take that ruling. Like when you had the issue, again, with Ma'arabi. Or I guess we believe a Halabi. And with Sheikh Muhsin didn't take that position.
No, he didn't.
He initially didn't take that position. But there was no one from amongst Sheikh Rabi' anyone that said Sheikh Muhsin al-Abad was a deviant or he's a sympathizer towards Hizbiyah. Like we have individuals making statements about Sheikh Wasil al-Abbas, saying that he praises the like of Jamiat Democratic, or that he praises Nakir. He had these individuals. What are you saying all that for? Are you trying to tell me indirectly that the Sheikh is off it because of these things? There are other scholars that we all respect. Sheikh bin Baz, okay, Sheikh al-Albani, Sheikh Uthaymeen, who worked it with people that might have been what?
Yeah.
Suspect, or might have had some problems. So don't give me that stuff. You want to start talking ill of the scholars. We're not getting into that. We accept dalil from the scholars, but when it comes to making specific rulings, we need more dalil that is convincing.
No.
Okay? That is absolute convincing. And if that happens, and if that shows us to us, then we're going to accept it by the permission of Allah Jalla wa Ala. Until then, right now, you brothers that making these statements and everyone that's following them in it, y'all like Pharaoh and his people to me. Because Pharaoh people are going to get punished from fire. I'm not saying y'all going to get punished with the fire, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they're getting punished on behalf of following Pharaoh. Allah said they are being exposed to the punishment day and night. Okay? So now, if you brothers are following Abu Khadija and I'm saying that Tahir White is a deviant, or if you follow Somali and I'm saying that Mufti is Muhtari, he's a deceptor, or Mustafa George, or Musa Richardson, and you follow this without any dalil, then guess what? You're going to take the burn of that sin upon what they're taking, you're going to take that too. You're going to follow them right along, you're going to take that too, because now those brothers got a legal right that they can take your deeds from you. Because not only you're backbiting them, not only you're slandering them, not only you're sitting there placing hukms on them, that if it's not true, it goes up to the sky and come back down on you, you haven't established those evidence. And I don't care who said it. Yeah, you brothers are defending people who do questionable actions. That, Sheikh Obayd said something.
What did he say? What was his proof?
Did he say he was a deviant? Because you called him a deviant. I didn't hear him say that.
Yeah, the days of running roughshod and just throwing statements out there and nobody asking for proof, y'all people got to stop living in fear. Ask questions and say, where's your proof? Who said that? Where'd you get it from? Is it from the Quran, the Sunnah, and the Ijma'? If it's not, we're not accepting it. The days of fear is over. Stand up for Allah's religion and say, we're not taking that anymore. We're not accepting that anymore.
Barakallahu feek.
It's not.
Brothers and sisters, we need to now start to look into their refutations and we need to tear them apart. We need to base those refutations that these brothers have made over the years against people, and we need to go by them piece by piece, just like they do to other individuals, and weigh them according to the Salaf and the principles of the Salaf, and weigh them according to what we just learned, and weigh it towards that principle. And we're going to see that these brothers have got no scholarly refutations, and we're going to see that most of their dalil is based off of nothing but he say, she say, and jealousy, and rancor, and all of this stuff. That's what we're going to find. These brothers need to stop, and we need to stop them. Inshallah. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Inshallah.